Are you ready for the truth? Good. Me too. So let's do this. Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is the second video at the Thermometer of Truth. My name is Saimira. I'm a truth speaker. I never disappoint when it comes to speaking the truth and standing on truth. So if you are here for the truth, enjoy this video, and I hope you can reflect about the things that I'm about to say. And if not, scroll and swipe. So a few disclaimers before I start. If you hear noise, that's because I live in a noisy street and we have a school here in front of us, so there might be children screaming, so don't panic, nobody's kidnapping anybody, it's just a school. I might be removing myself for a moment to get another coffee later on, and enjoy. Today I would like to speak about the erosion of the modern societies and the loss or the attack on the human dignity. Now, human dignity is a topic I've been struggling for a while, or actually I've been thinking to talk about for a while. It's not an easy topic because there are so many perspectives about human dignity and so many elements. There's the moral element, there's the legal element, there is the personal element. There are so many elements involved, and I'm not going to get too deep into the topic because otherwise I go all over the way, all over the place, and that's not the point. I would like to keep it consistent and concentrated as a topic, so I will focus on the three dimensions about the human dignity, which I will explain later. But the trigger for this video was because I was struggling between two topics. I was struggling between this, the attack on the human dignity, and the humiliation that we go through as humans, individuals, and what does that say and tell us about the situation and about the state of affairs within our modern societies, right? How does that make us reflect about what's going wrong with us and around us? And the other topic I was thinking about was the narcissistic societies and this obsession with self-love, which actually, if you think about it on a deeper level, they are somehow connected, right? Because if you speak about the lack of and the loss and the attack on the human dignity, you'll realize that one of the reasons is because we are so self-absorbed with ourselves and so obsessed with the self-love, and we don't care about anybody else because, oh, now we live in times where it needs to be all about you. But I will leave the narcissistic societies for the next video, which is the video after this one. And I will focus on the human dignity because we are going through turbulent times and we are making our issues within our society about everything else: economic, political issues, migration issues, and financial issues, whatever, except going at the core of all of our problems, which is how we deal as humans with our problems. And that touches upon human dignity because we, as societies, I believe, I might be wrong, you can correct me, I believe we have lost the navigation system as societies as to what we stand for, who we are, how do we to distinguish right from wrong, which direction we should go. We have become desensitized societies, yeah? We are no more able to understand what is right from wrong. We are no more able to stand for what is just and fight what is unjust. And that is because, first of all, we have removed the layers that keep us from becoming delusional, yeah? We have removed them. That is the virtues, the values, the moral compass within our societies and as individuals. But we have also, we are building our societies upon shaky fundaments, shaky foundations, which are not based on virtue, value, on a compass of integrity and authenticity. We are not building based on truth. We humans and societies, we insist that we are going to build better societies while we still are on the level of lying to ourselves and lying to everybody else about who we are and why we are here and what is the purpose of humanity and why we are losing our humanity and why we are losing our dignity and why dignity is important for us. That to me in itself is a big problem. But The other problem that we have as societies, which is also a reason for becoming so careless and desensitized towards everything around us, is that we are losing empathy and we are losing the basic human emotions, our capability and ability to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes and to understand, but also our emotional intelligence is at a very low level right now in our world, because people are not capable of understanding that when you put someone in a position to lose their rights, when you put somebody in a position to be violated and unprotected, when you put somebody else in a position of losing their integrity and self-respect and self-worth, which leads to the attack and the humiliation and the lack of human dignity, we all lose. We all lose. Nobody wins. That is one of the most difficult lessons for us as humans and societies to learn. We just refuse to learn that lesson. We refuse to learn that lesson. That unless everybody has rights, nobody has rights. You might be fooling yourself all day into thinking that you have everything because you have power, you have accumulation, you have vanity, you have validation, whatever you think you have. But make no mistake, in the end of the day you have lost. Why? Because you have left behind an unjust world for your children. You have not fought the battles that were your duty and your responsibility to fight, to leave a better world for your children. You are leaving your luggage because of your cowardness and because of your lack and inability to speak truth and stand for what matters in this lifetime. You have left the burden to your children and to the children of your children, something that is not their problem to solve. We don't understand that. We are so self-absorbed with the now and with what can I gain now, and I don't care what happens to anybody else because it's all about me now, right? We have shifted from the level of we building societies together. We have shifted and we have sank, actually not shifted, but we have sank deeper into the desperation level of, well, if it doesn't happen to me, I don't care. I don't care what happens outside my house. I don't care if there's injustice around me. I just close one eye and I'll close my ears and I'll pretend that it's not happening. So if I pretend that the problems around me are not happening, that must mean they don't exist. That is the level of delusion, the level of foolery and falsity and fakery that we are all involved in. Whether we like it or not, whether we see it or not, it's here. We are in the same mud. We are in the same trash all together. So that is why we need to raise the important questions as to why is human dignity, why is my dignity important to me? And if I offend and if I breach somebody else's dignity or somebody else breaches my dignity, who wins here? And what does that bring us? And what does that mean on a bigger scale for all of us, not just for me? I might win temporarily by the injustice that I do to someone, by offending and undermining their value and by attacking their dignity. I might win something, but that's not the end of the game because life is longer than that. So when we are being short-sighted because we think we are gaining something by being unjust, by being unfair, by being liars, cheaters, we think we are gaining something. The problem is nobody wins. The problem is when somebody's dignity is attacked, nobody has dignity. Because dignity is not just only about what you lose and what you gain. Dignity is about who you are at your core as a human being. So that's the topic of today. But let me start with some basics. I might be reading from my notes from time to time because I prepared this topic in a short time and there might be texts here that I really find important. So I'm going to read them exactly the way that I've put them down. So some things are not just about interpretation and rewriting and re-saying and bringing the essence to the viewer and the whole idea. Some things are to also be quoted exactly as they are, right? So that's what I'm going to do from time to time. Bear with me. Don't be bored. Let's start with the... I already introduced the topic. So let's start with some... the levels of what I'm going to talk about here. Let's start with this level of honesty that I like to have in my videos. You know, one of the things that I hate the most is fooling myself. When I lie to myself about something, then, you know, that's really disgusting to me. I like to be honest about everything that I speak, but also with myself. I owe myself at least honesty. That's a form of self-respect, okay? So, here's the thing. Can we really build just and fair societies? Because that's what we are fighting for, right? That's what you see people with big signs out there, fighting for justice, fighting for women's rights, fighting for empowerment. Can we really reach these levels that we are claiming that we are fighting for? Which is a total foolery, actually, according to me. But can we really get to the fair and just societies, the justice that we are all craving for, that we are desperate to have everywhere in the world, without the presence of human dignity? Can we? And the other question is, what happens to a society that is not capable of delivering on human dignity, which is, for me, one of the basic fuels and that builds the fabric of our society. In the last video, I spoke about truth and the element of truth and how important truth is to build healthy societies and sane societies, not delulu societies, but sane societies, strong societies, just societies. Dignity is another element, and it is also related to the truth. These are the questions that I'll make and I'll answer throughout the video, but the dimensions of the dignity might be several. I will touch only on 3 levels of human dignity, and that is the way that we are treated, the way that we treat ourselves, and the way that we treat others. All of these 3 tell us not only about who we are, but also how we treat others. How do we build relationships with others? How do we perceive the rights that we claim are so important around us? How do we fight about the causes that we think matter? Based on what? What are we trying to protect, right? So those 3 levels will give us a better overview and a deeper understanding as to why human dignity is so important. Why it's so important that you have dignity for yourself, but also that you also grant dignity to other people, whether it's directly and indirectly through opportunities, through whatever you are doing. And when I speak about human dignity, I'm not only speaking on these 3 levels only about humans with humans, individuals with other individuals. I'm not only speaking about relationships and communications between people. I'm also speaking about the relationship between citizens and governments, about the relationship between people within the same country and from other countries. I'm speaking about the breach or the grant of human dignity from systems, from laws, because that also can be breached. Human dignity can also be breached by laws and procedures and everything around you. So we will touch upon that. So let's start with some facts, or actually some historical examples that show us that human dignity is not only important, but that all the problems that go around us, at their core, they're about the human dignity, about the respect or loss of human dignity. Did you know that up to the 1950s, white Europeans would go to see people from other races and ethnicities and other colors in what they called back then human zoos. Those were either places with cages where these people of color or other race were kept as an attraction for the white people to go visit, or there were entire villages built for these people where they lived, and then the white people would go and visit them and watch them, right? Basically, it was a human zoo, right? It was a human zoo. That is just one example, right? The Holocaust is another example as to what happens to the human dignity. Wars is another example of what happens with the human dignity when you attack, when you undermine, when you devalue the human dignity, when you completely erase it from the very fabric of the society, or when you discard it as not important and not valuable. Another example is dictatorial regimes. I was born in a country during the dictatorial regime, one of the most aggressive ones in Europe. And I can tell you one thing for sure. The level of degradation of human dignity in my country was out of any logic and out of any perception of the human experience. Okay? And that is something I can speak about because I have lived it. Not a long time, not too much. My parents lived it longer than me. But I'm saying this to undermine this. All of these examples that I gave, you might call it racism, you might call it discrimination towards people, you can call it white supremacy, you can call it a breach of human rights, but they all have the same thing at the core. The attack on the human dignity. Let's start with the definition of what human dignity is, because in the definition there are some important elements that also define the distinguishing characteristics of why human dignity is at the same time so important for us, right? So I'm going to read you a few things, and then we're going to go through all of these examples. So human dignity is the intrinsic worth, the inner worth of a human being, and the right to be treated with respect. Dignity is the right to not be humiliated, deprived, or judged from any rights and excluded from any rights, but to be treated as equal to any other human being. So here's right in the beginning we have the first element of human dignity. It is an intrinsic worth. It cannot be violated because it's within you. The second element of the human dignity is that human dignity is not dependable on the external circumstances. It is not conditional, and it cannot be conditioned by anybody. So that means that your dignity does not depend on your race, on your culture, on your background, on your achievements, on your CV, on your fame, on your validation, whatever you think you have. Why am I underlining this? That dignity is not conditional, and dignity is not dependable on your external circumstances or conditions. Because what's happening in our society is that we are now judging and dividing and treating people, according to their status, according to their social belonging, according to their scale within the social game, according to their titles, according to what we think is power, according to their bank accounts, according to their ability to be slick. So what happens here is that we put the value on a human being based on something that, first of all, is temporarily, because you can lose it. Whatever power you think you have, you can lose it, right? So that does not define who you are as a human being. That is why the human dignity is internal. It is a value that comes to you by birth, by simply being born as a human. That's where your dignity lies. That means when you treat people based on whatever you think they have or they are, but not based on the fact that they are a human being and you are obliged to respect them just because they are human, then you have no idea what human dignity is. And you probably lost yours as well, because if you're going to do that to people, you're going to have the same treatment back, right? That's the times that we live in. The third element about human dignity is that humans do not need to prove their worth to have dignity. Because dignity is not earned. It's inherited by birth, as I said. It's inherited simply by the virtue of being a human, right? Why is this important that we understand this? Because what we do nowadays is we go around there and we ask people to show us their value. We put a tremendous pressure on people to convince us how valuable they are. What is their worth? Because we put the worth on the different elements and the different conditions, right? So dignity has nothing to prove to anybody. Yeah, all humans have dignity, and all humans should be respected based and solely on the fact that they are humans born with dignity. Yeah. So when we deprive people from their dignity, basically we kind of lose our sense of living, right? Because that goes at our core as human beings. So then we lose the sense of who we are at our core as human beings, right? But why is dignity so important is the next question. What happens when you breach human dignity, and when we offend it, and when we violate it, and when we try to attack it and lose it, right? First of all, human dignity is important for all of us because human dignity, the way we treat people in their dignity, decides how they're going to live their life. I'm not sure if I should say this. I was thinking about something, but anyway, let me continue so I don't get lost in the topic. So when people are treated with respect and with equal rights, yeah, what happens here is that we recognize their human value, their value as a human, their intrinsic value, as I said. That does not depend from your income, achievements, whatever you think. So we recognize the value of a human being. We recognize the value of another being. What we say is, I see you. I see you for who you are as a human, not as a boss, not as a colleague, not as a businessman, not as a politician. I see you in your humanity, in your basic, the most vulnerable part of yours, which is our humanity. That's where we connect with each other. So what happens when we attack human dignity, and what are we actually producing, right? Because you produce something, whether you're going to grant somebody dignity and rights and respect, or you're going to deny them something, you are always producing something. That's the problem that we also don't understand among our societies. We are constantly producing something, whether by acting on it or ignoring it, or being playing a deaf ear and a blind eye towards it, right? So you are contributing to something whether you like it or not. The problem is, do you know what you're choosing for? Do you know that through the choices that you make every day, you are offending someone else, that you are breaching somebody else's rights, that you are violating and offending and attacking somebody else's dignity at their core of their existence? Do you realize that? And by doing that, somebody else will come and do the same to you. I don't think people realize that. Because, as I said, people are very self-absorbed. They can't see beyond their noses. That's where we live in. That's a delusion where we live in. Cheers. I'm having this is my second coffee. Which is not important for the topic, actually. It's not an important statistic for this topic, how much coffees I'm having today, but okay, that was a nice joke. So what happens what do we produce by violating the human dignity? That's the whole point, right? What do you produce? What are you producing every day? You either produce justice or injustice. You either produce morality or immorality. You either produce values or anti-values. You're either producing authenticity and promoting it and integrity and truth, or you're promoting lies and foolery and fakery. Right? We make choices every day. And the choices that we make is mirrored and reflected in the situation we are living in. The life that you live is the choices that you are making. Right? And that goes also for the human dignity. So the first thing we produce by violating human dignity or undermining it is inequality. The level of inequality among our societies is only rising, basically, is staggering. We live in racist societies, we live in hateful societies, people who hate each other just because they are of another color, just because they have a different name, just because they have an accent, just because they eat a different meal back at home. Yeah. Societies that exclude those who are different than them, instead of including them, because contribution is done by all of us, whether you are different language or different color or different country and different race. We all contribute, as I said. So what happens here is that when we exclude and we violate people because they are of another race or another culture or another background, yeah, what's happening here is, or status, we are then giving these people a value based on their class, based on their religion, based on their gender. So what happens is, this creates unequal societies, unequal treatments, which also goes to unequal societies, right? What does the unequal societies produces? That produces injustice. So how does inequality create space for injustice, you might ask? Well, when people assign a higher value to one human above another human, yeah, they give preferential treatment to that human above the other human, which means that other human that is left in the shadows, yeah, he is excluded or discriminated or hated or oppressed or abandoned or left out, whatever system, opportunities, whatever you think, people are being left out. And so that's how injustice is born, because you start treating people differently because you think the value of one human is bigger and more important than the value of another human, right? Where does that lead us? So this inequality and injustice that we produce by attacking the human dignity at their core. What does it produce? Well, that produces lack of freedom. When you are unjust to people and you deny them their basic rights, the right to respect, the right to feel equal, to have equal opportunities, right? You are depriving people from the basic freedom, one of the basic freedoms, which is the freedom to live their life the way they want. This whole theory of we live in free societies and free countries, democratic countries with human rights, please spare me the bullshit. If one person is not free, nobody is free. Let me repeat that. If one person is not free, is feeling suppressed, ignored, undermined, devalued, bullied, attacked, hated, discriminated, nobody wins. Nobody has any rights. Okay? We have rights when everybody has rights. So, where does that go? So, the rule here is dignity isn't here so we can just apply our citizens' rights. And we can be forced by the law to take accountability and to protect the citizens and to protect our rights. This goes deeper. This goes at denying, when you attack people's dignity, you are denying them the basic right of choosing how to live, of choosing where to live. Migration is a good example of that. Of choosing which language to speak, of choosing what career to follow, of choosing what profession to choose, of choosing and deciding for themselves how to live, who to marry, where to live, how much to earn. And that goes back to the individual and personal sovereignty. That goes to the freedom of the people. Yeah. So, if we lack freedom, then what does that mean? That means we are attacked at our core as humans. Human dignity is attached and connected to our humanity. Yeah. So, when we lose our dignity, we also lose our sense of self-worth. We lose our sense of who we are, self-identity. And that goes deep to who we are and to feeling worthy or worthless as human beings. So this was just a few elements to clarify what human dignity is shortly, and what are the distinguishing elements of the dignity, right? And why is it a bit important? Actually, a lot important, but I explained it shortly. Let's get into some legal basis. Some countries, I think some of them are Switzerland, Japan, Germany, and other countries that I don't remember, I think Italy as well. They open up their constitution with the first article in their constitution is about human dignity. And there are other countries, including here in the Netherlands, where we open up the constitution with the core article about human rights. Of course, human rights and human dignity are interconnected. But according to the most basic and intentional and powerful legal frameworks and legal basics, legal and laws that we have established within the European Union, but also internationally, they all state that human dignity is at the core of all human rights. It's not the other way around. It's not the other way around. Let me prove it to you with two articles, or at least two documents as legal basis and a legal interpretation for them. Let's start with a 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which in the preamble, so before the Article 1, it says, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity, inherent dignity, and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. So this article makes it very clear that, or it raises a very, very crucial question for all of us as societies and individuals, which is, can we really reach the freedom, the justice, and the peace that we are fighting so hard for? Yeah. Which is so fake, this fight that we are doing, according to me. But hey, don't believe me in everything I say. Check yourself. Can we really achieve this peace of freedom, justice, and peace in the world without the presence of human dignity? I raised this question also in the beginning of the video. And here's what the Article 1 says of the very Declaration of Human Rights. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Notice that the word dignity comes before the rights. Equal, unconditional. You don't prove your dignity to anybody. You are born with it. Yeah, there's nothing to prove to anybody. That is important. And it continues, they are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. So what this Article 1 is telling us is, first of all, human dignity is born with you. Yeah, you have it by the capacity of being a human being. That's it. That's all you need to have dignity. And all human beings. He's not saying some human beings. Yeah, he's not saying the far left or the far right in the politics. He's not saying the rich people over the poor people. He's saying all human beings. All, no matter your status, no matter your race, no matter your language, no matter your background. Yeah, all humans are born free in dignity and rights, and they are equal in that. And they are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. This part of this article, well, I can translate it in a way that you will all understand. Stop being a coward and respect everybody. That's what this article is telling you in a very nice way, of course, because this is law. That's what we do. We speak nicely. Stop being a piece of trash and respect everybody around you. You are not entitled to respect or dignity or rights because you are better than anybody else. That is something that is given to you by birth, it is given to you by God, and it is given to you and guaranteed by law. You have signed all of these declarations. You, me, and everybody else. And when I say you, I mean our countries. Yeah? Here's the other document that's very important, at least is one of the fundamental documents here in the European Union that we apply when it comes to the breach of human rights and everything else. The European Charter of Fundamental Rights. Fundamental rights, not rights, fundamental rights. Okay. European Charter, Article 1. Here it comes. Human dignity is inviolable. It cannot be violated. You can attack somebody every day and all day. Human dignity is inviolable. It must be respected and protected. Notice what it says. It must. It does not say, if you please, Your Highness, if you have the time to respect my dignity, if you would like to, if you like my face and my voice, you can respect me. It says it must be. It's not a choice. We are obliged to respect everybody's dignity, to respect everybody, every human in their dignity for who they are, and protect it. What does the word protected mean? When you see injustice around you, act. Act. That's what it means, protected, because when you will ask for help from somebody else to protect your rights, nobody will show up. Why? Because you didn't show up for others. That's how it works. So let's do a little interpretation here. There's a very interesting case, you can check it online, which is the Netherlands versus European Parliament and Council. That is a case from 2001. You can check it online. The number of the case is C377/98. Here's a very short interpretation of this one sentence that I said. Basically, human dignity is inviolable, it must be protected and respected. The dignity of the human person is not only a fundamental right that constitutes the real basis of fundamental rights. So all rights stem from your right to have dignity, as I said, right? None of the rights laid down in this charter may be used to harm the dignity of another person, and that the dignity of the human person is part of the substance of the rights in this very charter. Yeah. It must be therefore respected even where a right is restricted. What that means is, even if you lose all your rights as a human being, you never lose your right to dignity. Because every right you have on this planet comes from the right of dignity. To have dignity, to live in dignity, to be treated with dignity. Yeah? So, I'm not going to go deep into the legal background because this could go all day, because I want to touch a little bit from everything. Let's get into the three dimensions, as I mentioned in the beginning, the three dimensions of the human dignity, which tells us how it's applied, how it's breached, how it's lost, how it's not lost, but how it's attacked. And also maybe also lost, because there's I think there's an ongoing debate about the question as to can a human really lose their dignity? I believe they can. But let me see if I can get to that conclusion to make it clear for us. The reason that I'm combining this with video, trying to put many elements in it, legal, moral, human elements, even emotion, in my indignation of the voice, you can feel it, is because I don't want to make this video about a lecture. This is not a lecture. These are lessons and conclusions and reflection points that I've gotten out of my life, and I want to share them with you in a simple way, in an organized way of thinking and analyzing the issues that makes us want to reflect, right? Because if you want a lecture, YouTube is full with videos from professors from Harvard and many other people who studied law, and those, I mean, I admire their level of professionalism, but my videos are not about that, are not about doing an academic analysis or a legal analysis in depth. It's about transmitting emotion and inviting the viewer to reflect together with me. So that being said, the three dimensions of the human dignity. The first dimension is how other people treat us. How do other people treat us? Why is that important? So, one of the most important ways to measure how human dignity is applied and exercised, if that is a way to be done in our lives, is by the way how people treat us. And when I say other people, that is just one level. When it comes to how we are treated or how others treat us, I'm talking not only about individuals, I'm speaking about systems, I'm speaking about governments, I'm speaking about laws, international laws, everything, on all levels, basically. What happens when we are left in our dignity, when we live in dignity, right? Then we have the capacity and the freedom to make choices that benefit our life, to make choices that make our life better, right? But also other people's lives better, because we don't make just choices about ourselves. We make choices about our children, we make choices about our marriages, about our partners, about our parents, about friends, whoever is involved in your life that you care about, right? But what happens when other people treat us in a way that attacks our dignity at the core, and which might be done directly or indirectly, for example, by denying us opportunities, by restricting our rights, by limiting our free access to things, to services, to free movement, to starting businesses, to reach or have access to financial sources, to limiting our opportunities when it comes to study and to work somewhere or to move somewhere. So those are all ways that directly or indirectly attack our free choices to build a dignified life, and to feel dignified as human beings, right? So why am I mentioning this point? Because we live in societies, I don't know in your country and I don't know in other continents, here in Europe, we are living in systems that are very exclusive. They exclude people from opportunities. We are living in the midst of institutional racism. We are living in the midst of hate. So all of that is done in ways that are very subtle, and that is usually blamed on the system, right? But to me personally, it goes back to how a human treats or refuses to treat another human. That goes back to the respect and the self-worth that we want others to experience or not experience, right? By denying other people opportunities. So what happens when we do that? When we deny other people the right of dignity, whether they see it or not, it doesn't matter. It's not about them, it's about us. It's about how others treat us. That is how we, other people, treat other people, right? It goes both ways. So here's what happens. We deprive other people from validation and meaning. Here's the thing. When you deny other people from opportunities to grow, from employment opportunities, from careers, when you deny people from contribution within your society, within your country, when you deny them the chance to do something bigger than themselves, yeah, you are not just denying these people a job. You are denying these people a sense of belonging, a sense of feeling accepted, a sense of feeling validated. Because here's the thing, not everybody works for money. I know we have become superficial and shallow societies to the point where everybody's thinking about the financial gain. And that's disgusting. That disgusts me as a human being. I don't work for money. Never did, never will. Some people, which is in minority unfortunately, work for meaning. They work for impact. They work for a bigger cause than themselves. Yeah. They find meaning. They find accomplishment. And it's not even about the fact whether we validate them or not, whether we see their worth or not. It's not about that. It's about what these people contribute to the bigger picture. It's about the value that they bring on the table. Yeah. So the very fact that we undermine this bigger purpose of employing somebody, yeah, is an attack itself on the human dignity. Because we do see their potential, yeah, we do see their value, but we deny them opportunities. That is a calculated attack on their human dignity. That is to undermine their human dignity. That is to humiliate these people. That is what is going on in our society. So, what happens when we do that? Why do we do that? Because here's the other thing that I would like to touch upon. It's not a mistake. Whoever says that the attack on the human dignity is coincidental and it's just a glitch in the system and it's all just a mistake, I didn't know I offended you, it's not. It's on purpose. Any attack on the human dignity, being that direct or indirect, is on purpose. It's a calculated attack. Okay? Be aware of that. And if you do a retrospective on your life in terms of how you have been denied of opportunities, you will find out that the problem was not the opportunity itself that was denied from you or taken away from you, or career or whatever. It went deeper than that. It went deeper than that. And that goes where? How deep? It goes to the chipping away of your self-worth. Now, when we are recognized, seen, appreciated, validated, complimented, for what we do, for bringing meaning to something, for serving somewhere, yeah? It's not just only about us having pleasure out of it and feeling fulfilled and accomplished. It's also about defining and deciding our self-worth. Yeah, our self-confidence. Right? Because when you achieve something, when you do something good and meaningful, it gives you meaning inside. It gives you accomplishment and a sense of belonging. Yeah, a sense of that you belong to a bigger picture, that you belong to a bigger cause, that you are included into something meaningful, that you can solve a problem together with others, but that you are doing something important within your society, within your country, within your culture. Right? So this attack on the human dignity, on your dignity, by denying you opportunities and excluding you from things that are meaningful and important, not only destroy your self-confidence, but they attack and they chip away, they eat away slowly, yeah, like a worm from inside the apple. It eats from inside on your self-worth. Because you don't feel worthy anymore. You don't feel wanted anymore. You don't feel that you belong anywhere. You are just a number walking around, having a job, going home, sleeping, and start all over again. You don't find any meaning in that. I don't believe there's any human being that finds meaning into that routine. That means if you don't have any meaning and if you don't feel any self-worth and if you don't feel that you're belonging somewhere, that you're contributing to something within your society or in the world, then what are you? Who are you? What are you worthy of? That very belief, that very doubt that you start having for yourself because other people or systems or governments or whatever don't see your value, or they refuse to use your value, that makes you doubt your whole identity. That puts into question your entire belonging into the world, right? That is the purpose of attacking the human dignity, which brings me back to what I said. It's not coincidental. Nope. The second dimension that tells us how we apply human dignity, or how we attack it, or how we protect it or not, is the way we treat ourselves. Now, let's clarify here. When I say the way we treat ourselves, there is a thin line that distinguishes societies from having self-respect from the becoming of Delulu societies. There's a very thin line. People can skip from the self-respect to becoming delusional very quickly. Very quickly. So you need to be careful with this. Yes, self-respect and self-worth is important, but not self-love. There is no such thing as self-love. Others love us, God loves us, we love others. There's no such thing as self-love. You respect yourself, you accept yourself, you put your boundaries for yourself, you know your value, yeah? But loving yourself? We can debate that in the next video about narcissistic societies and what we have become because, oh, now we have to love yourself more than everybody else. So the second dimension is how we treat ourselves. Because here's the core question here. When you lose your dignity, or when you are attacking your dignity, first of all, can you attack your own dignity? Can you lose your own dignity by choice? Or are we losing our dignity and self-respect by ignorance or by naivety? Well, what is happening here? Where's the balance? Well, they're both possible. Let me illustrate to you from a very interesting story the loss of self-respect and dignity. And how can you lose it real quick? The way you treat yourself. I'm going to read it to you because it's a very nice story. This comes from the novel of William Styron, which is Sophie's Choice, which is about the following scene. There's a scene that I have extracted from this book. Auschwitz inmate Sophie, so she was in Auschwitz being detained there. Her name was Sophie. She licks the boots of the camp commander Rudolf Höss. Yeah. Rudolf Höss was in charge of the gas chambers in Auschwitz, and he decided who was going to live and who was going to die. So in one of the scenes, she begs him and she says, "Herr Kommandant, I know I can't ask much for myself, but I beg of you to do one thing for me before you send me back. I have a young son in Camp D, where all boys are kept imprisoned. He was with me when I arrived, but I have not seen him for 6 months. I yearn to see my boy. I'm afraid for his health, and the winter is coming. So I beg of you to consider some way in which he might be released. His health is frail and he's very young." So Sophie reports later on in the book by saying, "I couldn't help myself in that very moment where I was begging that man. I threw myself against him and I threw my arms around his waist and I begged him. And when I said all this, I fell on my knees in front of him. I surrounded his boots as if they were made of fur or something warm and cozy and comforting. And I think I even licked them with my tongue. I licked those Nazi boots." Towards the end of her account, Sophie says something that put us all to reflections about lost dignity and about what dignity and what self-respect is. she says, the dignified way of living is a way of responding to the threats and challenges of human life. This response, however, requires a certain degree of freedom and sovereignty. But when people are so beset by misery that they no longer have the room for maneuver, every ideal of dignity is extinguished. The question simply no longer possesses itself, and any judgment about dignity becomes ridiculous. Finally, she says, sacrificed dignity isn't deprived dignity. This right here is a powerful thing, a powerful story that tells us, first of all, that no human on this existence, on this planet, should ever be put in a position or put themselves in a position to lose the self-respect and self-worth to the point to humiliate themselves to the point of losing their dignity as a human being completely, right? But Sophie is showing us here that she lost her self-respect not as a choice and for her own sake, right? She was humiliated and she was conditioned and put under conditions that no human being should be put, but she had to make a choice for the sake of another human being. She had to lose and sacrifice her own dignity to protect her child, her son, right? So Sophie crosses the limits of self-respect, not for herself, right? And she forfeits her dignity in a way that underlines the complete loss of her worth as a human. Sophie's choice was not a choice based on free will, but it was an obligation to do the right thing as a mother. Yeah, there are many cases in the human history and every day, by the way, where women, mothers, need to protect their children at the cost of losing their own dignity, right? So the lesson here is the freedom of choice was inexistent in a situation where her life and her child's life was threatened. But here's an interesting question here that brings us to the other side of the same coin about dignity. What about the dignity that lies in having a free choice? What about the dignity that lies in your ability, in you as a human being, having the right and the capability and capacity to make a choice for yourself? Because here's the thing, and the next question, do we all lose our dignity because of the circumstances? Do we all treat ourselves without dignity and we lose our self-respect and self-worth because of the circumstances, like in Sophie's choice, and because we are obligated and we are forced to lose our dignity in a way, right, to gain something? And the answer is no. Because some people choose to lose their dignity. I'm not going to go deep into this. A good example of this is voluntary prostitution, escorting services, whatever modeling careers, fashionistas, whatever you think they are, pageant competitions that end up in camouflaged and covered prostitution and forcing women, violating women, and using them as sex objects. These are not all cases where women are forced to lose their dignity. Some women choose to lose their dignity, and not only women, but men too. But since I'm speaking about these phenomena, they involve women mostly. So when a woman chooses to be used as a sex object for the purpose of gaining fast accumulation and quick fame and success, then she's making a choice. That means your free choice and your free will, does not justify or does not make you a victim in losing your dignity. Because the moment you lose your dignity and your self-respect, then you are no more capable and you are no more in a position of asking to be treated with dignity by anybody else. And this is the contradiction that many people don't understand, because in the societies that we live in, we have become so entitled to respect and to love and to be treated properly. Actually, we don't treat ourselves properly. We don't have dignity for ourselves, and then we go out there and we get offended when other people refuse to give us a dignified treatment. Problem is, it doesn't work like that. They go together. It's one thing to not be treated with dignity and respect by others. It's another thing that you don't grant yourself the right of self-respect. So when this is a choice which is the totally opposite of Sophie's choice, then you end up losing your own dignity by choice, by freedom of choice, right? So freedom of choice does not in itself confer or grant us dignity. That's the purpose. That's the purpose of the message here. That means we can freely choose to do something that violates our dignity despite it being voluntarily, right? Because we sometimes know our choices bring us to loss of dignity, but we do it anyway, right? Because we don't calculate the price of losing your dignity. A lot of people go around thinking only about one side of the story, thinking about the money, the accumulation, the fame, whatever. But they forget the price of losing your dignity, because that comes with a price. Whatever you think you're gaining in life, it comes with a price. It will come with the price of losing something else, whether it's your dignity, whether it's your self-respect, self-worth, or whatever. So where do we draw the line here? Where do we stand on the losing your dignity without losing your free will? Or where does our free will breach our dignity? Like, how does it go? If a free choice that you do yourself is motivated by lack of another freedom in your life, as I said, the balance, gaining this, losing that, right? Then it's still wrong. Yeah. And it still is an attack on your own dignity. You're attacking your own dignity. That means if the free choice comes at the cost of another important freedom, it's not really a free choice, is it? And it leads to the loss of dignity. The third dimension is the way we treat others. So the first one was how we are treated by others. The second dimension of the dignity was how we treat ourselves. And the third is how we treat other people. Let's talk about this, because I would like to stop here. I think I'm going to make a separate video about the way we treat others as part of the migration problems that we are going now here in Europe. But I'm going to make a separate video on migration, because that's a big issue. I just want to mention two cases that illustrate the way we treat others and how they are attacked, how we attack them in their dignity. The first example is the way we are treated at the border control. Now, here within European Union members, where everything is harmonized, right, and almost on the same level, you don't feel it. But when you come from a country who is outside of the European Union, or Eastern European countries coming to Western European countries, then you can feel the way you are treated at border control that dictates how much value your passport holds. Or actually, said even more accurately, you are treated by the weight, the reputation, and the freedom that your passport holds. Not you as a human being, but your passport. That means the border control officers will look at you and they will put the value upon you as a citizen of a country based on how much value your passport holds. And based on that, they will decide if you are worthy of their respect at the border control. That means you will either be treated as a dignified citizen with full rights, European citizen, or you'll be treated like less worthy. Another example, which means it's wrong, right? Which means we as humans and societies have deep issues. Because if you're going to treat people based on the value that their passport holds, then you and your country too, you have deep issues. The second example is immigration. Immigration has become the hot potato of the European Union. The European countries, by the way, the same countries that have signed all of these declarations that I just read, where human dignity is at the core of every other human rights, those same countries are throwing the immigration issue like a hot potato in everybody's face, trying to escape the responsibility that comes from signing these declarations and these very treaties that they claim that they are applying, making immigrants feel like, and treating immigrants, whether they're legal or illegal, they are all worthy of human dignity and dignified treatment. But we are treating migrants like a group of people that is not worthy of a human treatment. Because I'm not going to get into the illegal migration because I understand the problem there. The problem with illegal migration is that we see illegal immigrants as criminals. We don't see them as human beings in need of a better life. We don't see them as human beings escaping from their country because there is something wrong there and they are searching for justice, they are searching for better economic opportunities. There's nothing wrong with looking for a better life because everybody has the right to go in search of a better life. There is no law and no moral rule and whatever standards you use in your tiny little mind that stops and denies everybody and anybody the right to move from one country to another one in search of a better life. There's no such thing. There's no such restriction. That's probably just in your mind. But we are treating evil migrants who come from other countries legally as less worthy. We don't include migrants in our societies. Whoever tells you that is lying to you. Migrants are excluded, isolated, devalued, bullied, because they're different. That's it. They're different. Here's the problem with migration. Because here's the other thing, the other hypocrisy of Europe here is that Europe refuses to see the migration for exactly what it is, the migration problem. We are trying to solve the migration issues on all possible levels, border control, as an economic issue, as a integration issue. I mean, we are so busy with putting labels, on putting labels on any kind of problem, naming all kinds of problems, even political issues. It's a political issue now. Migration is a political issue too. Only to refuse to see it for what it is. Let me solve your migration issue in your country in one sentence or in two sentences. I hope you can remember this because I'll get deeper in another video about human migration, about immigration. Here's the problem. Migration and immigration are issues of human dignity. And therefore cannot be solved with restrictions, border controls, extreme policy or political games. We need to adjust, review, renew, rebuild our systems, our laws, and our cultures yeah, to treat migrants with dignity, to include them rightfully and purposefully as part of our societies and not exclude them. Immigrants are not commodity or objects. Yeah, they are humans, human beings, deserving of a dignified life wherever they choose to live. Okay, there you go. That's the solution of migration issues. Let's get to the next level. How is human dignity attacked? Now, there are many ways of attacking human dignity. Some of them are what I call the 3D: degradation, disgrace, discredit of human value and who you are at your worth and at your core as a human being. But the biggest of them all, in my eyes, again, do your own research, the biggest one for me that undermines and attacks dignity at their core is humiliation. Humiliation of humans, or of a group of people for that matter, or of a nation for that matter, or of a society, could be on all levels. It is a ritual. Yeah, let me read a few things here. So, when our dignity is attacked, we are stripped from our sense of autonomy, self-worth, and sense of power. Yeah? First thing we need to understand about humiliating anybody in any way possible that you might even think is that it is an intentional attack. Humiliation is not a glitch in the system. You don't get humiliated because, oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Yeah, I didn't see you standing there. I'm sorry, I just didn't see your CV applying for this job. And I accidentally and wrongfully and coincidentally, I gave the job to someone who was less qualified, or to somebody who was blonde because you have black hair and you have black skin. Or you come from another country and you have an accent. Yeah, so yeah, oops. No, that's not what humiliation is. Humiliation is a carefully and purposefully orchestrated act, directly or indirectly. It's an action to attack someone in their value as a human being and to attack their core identity. Yeah. Now, the disturbing part about humiliation on another human being or of another human being is that the attack on human dignity through humiliation is a planned act to achieve a certain outcome. Yeah. To achieve a certain goal or an end. It is based on a malicious intent to harm other people, yeah, and to strip them out of their dignity so that they feel worthy of nothing. But for the dignity to be damaged, in order for the humiliation to work, the humiliation ritual must bring some result. It must fulfill its purpose, if we call it that way, and it must fulfill some conditions, yeah, to be seen as an attack on the human dignity. So, what are here the means and the ends and the purpose of and the goal of humiliation? What is a humiliation ritual achieving, or at least aiming to achieve here, right? Because the attack on the human dignity and stripping people of human dignity, well, that's the end, that's the last stop, that's the destination, yeah? But what are the stops and the stages that we have to go through in order to get to the end result as a result of this humiliation ritual, which could be also many at the same time, but I'm saying humiliation single. To get to the attack of human dignity. Let's start with the first stage. First of all, we need to understand that the motivation behind every humiliation is the intention behind the action. The intention. When we humiliate other people or attack their dignity, the action is the last stop, is the last end. What you see through action is the last thing. It's not the first thing. The first thing is pre-planning, premeditating, the intention to go and harm somebody and humiliate them. That's where it starts. It starts with the intention. Whether it's here or here, it doesn't matter. But the action is the last stage. So here's the first stop. Powerlessness and loss of autonomy. I'm going to read them because I don't want the video to be too long, so don't mind me if I read. Powerlessness and loss of autonomy. So, first of all, humiliation, we already established, is the experience of having our dignity undermined or attacked or taken away or, damaged by others, being that a government, a law, group of people, family, whoever that is, individuals, partners. At the core of the humiliation lies powerlessness. Taking away the autonomy and the power from other people to have a choice, to decide something about their life, to feel in charge of their life. It can come in the form of lack of choices, deprivation of rights, inability to make decisions, prohibition to do something, exclusion and limitation from opportunities, disrespect, disregard of your value or of who you are, right? So, powerlessness is connected to the forced inability to live a life that you wish. You are forced by the circumstances, by the systems, by the laws, by the governments, whatever you choose to believe in. But it is a forced inability that prevents you to live your life as you should, as you want to live, right? So this powerlessness that you feel as a result of that humiliation attack, it comes in different forms. For some people it comes in an inability to integrate, to be part of a society, to work in your profession, to build your own business, to move freely from one country to another one, to exercise your rights due to restrictions, or to be financially stable, and so on, right? I think a good example of this is people who end up in debt, financial debt and insecurity. Is your inability to build your life. Not because you don't want to build a life. It's not because you choose to go on the street and live under the bridge. Nobody wants that for their life. But you are forced to, by the denial of all of these rights and opportunities that you have. Yeah. So that is the first level. What is the other purpose of the humiliation, the second purpose, or the second level of harm to the dignity as a result of that humiliation? Demonstrating influence and control of other people. So the purpose of the humiliation is to make other people feel powerless, ashamed, embarrassed, insecure, afraid, and stupid. So by positioning people in this type of place or situation, we make them feel less worthy, right? And that is a way of demonstrating control and power over someone. When people influence others or make other people feel powerless and have no power over their life and over the choices that they want to make, then it gives other people a sense of control over them. They think they can control other people. Yeah, we see that every day. What else? Pleasure and enjoyment. Oh boy. When I said humiliation is an intentional act and the attack on human dignity is never a coincidence, I meant exactly this. Pleasure and enjoyment from the humiliation ritual that you do on others. Have you noticed how some people, whether it's in a relationship, in family, in at your job, wherever that is, have you noticed how some people will attack you emotionally? They will make you cry, they will make you react in rage, show emotion, and then they will watch you and they will put a smirk on their face to let you know that they are enjoying it, to let you know and to make you see, yeah, that they are enjoying the humiliation that they are doing on you. That is the sick societies that we are living in. This example and this picture right here is enough for you to describe the state of our societies today. The level of sickness that a human needs to have to humiliate someone on purpose and then laugh in their face. You know that smirk? That's a smirk. That's what people do. Yeah. That is an act of pleasure and enjoyment. Yeah. Another a good example of this is domestic violence and sexual violence on women. Yeah. It gives these people a sense of power over their spouses, a sense of control, ownership. I own you. Yeah, you are not a woman worthy of human dignity and respect. I own you. You are an object. And I decide how you're going to live your life. Yeah, that is the pleasure and enjoyment that comes from the humiliation rituals. Another level is the violation of boundaries and codependency. When we become a subject of humiliation, we lose the sense of personal space and boundaries. We no more know where our boundaries are because we tolerate and we let go and we let other people humiliate us, walk over us, take our goodness for weakness. Yeah, think that we are stupid, naive, that they can fool us. That's because we lose the sense of personal space. We lose the boundaries that we need to put from the very beginning with these people. Yeah. Those who violate others, they push their boundaries to violate their sense of freedom, to limit them in their sense of freedom by taking over the space that they aren't supposed to take. It's not their space. A good example of this is in families where one of the spouses, usually men, are very controlling, right? They control the finances, they control the movements, they even control how much makeup their wife or spouse is going to use. They even control what dress she's going to have to put on every day. They control how long her skirt should be. Yeah, that's the violence of boundaries. And the reason that they do that is to ignite a sense of codependency from the other person, to make you completely codependent on them, to make you unable to take one decision, to make one decision for your life based on your wishes and on your goals and on your dreams, but to completely to think and to feel, yeah, and to apply this illusion in your life that you can do nothing without me. You are nothing without me, right? Which is an illusion. So what happens here is we lose the power to act, think, and move freely. Because we lose the sense of independence and autonomy because we no more decide about our lives. Other people decide for us. And this same rule goes also for the systems and for the governments and for the political whatever environments that we are living in. Yeah, that this same violation of boundaries and codependency between governments and their citizens, between politicians and their citizens, between families and their members, between bosses and their employees, between lovers and their partners is on every level. It's on every level, between international procedures and laws and countries on international level and other little smaller countries, between richer and powerful economically countries and less economically independent countries. So you see it on all levels, on all levels. The final one is the loss of self-respect and integrity. I hope this video does not become too long. Maybe I can cut it a bit. See, humiliation is very subtle. Yes. Sometimes it makes you think that you're doing the right thing. Sometimes humiliation rituals make you think that you are making the right decision for your life, that it's you who makes the decision, not the other person who is controlling you like a puppet on strings, but it's you. Yeah. It makes people choose for humiliation thinking they are winning something else. Yeah. I mentioned it a little bit in the free will after the Sophie's Choice example. For example, here's another case, pornography. Sexual humiliation is a real thing, okay? And it goes both ways. Some people like to feel humiliated. They feel there are women out there who find pleasure in being, and men, who find pleasure in being humiliated. Whether it's in intimacy or in any other way. We call that kinkiness nowadays, because as societies we like to soften the names and to justify the nonsense and the bullshit going around us. And one of the ways that we like to soften the wickedness around us, yeah, and the evil around us, is by putting a name that sounds fun. If you say I'm kinky, that it does not make you wicked sexually, yeah. It does not make you twisted here as much as you would think. It justifies what you're doing because it's for fun, it's kinky. I like to be kinky. I like to be promiscuous. Yeah? Well, here's the problem, my friends. Just because you change the name of something bad, it does not make it right. Let me say that again. Just because you change the name of something bad or evil or damaging for your self-worth and your dignity, it does not make it better, and it does not make it the right thing. Okay? So, when I say it goes both ways, it means these behaviors that are hiding beyond this title, sometimes we call them empowerment, right? Sometimes we call them independence of women, right? And fame and vanity, that's what we call them. Oh my God, there's a fly in here. Sorry. I'll kill it later. So what they gain out of this, it's a distorted image of their self, right? That's where it's based. And that makes people think they are powerful because that gives them a sense of self-purpose. Even people who are doing wicked things out there, they think they're contributing to something important. Yes, I am doing pornography because I am contributing to giving pleasure to a man, even though that costs me humiliation and loss of dignity, but I'm contributing to something bigger. Really? Wow. Well, good for you, by the way. So it gives them this sense of self-purpose to feel needed in one way or another, being that through pleasure, being that through pain, being that through control, whatever that is. Yeah. So, final point here. Final point, my dear friends. I can't believe I did this video in such a short time. I usually go 2 hours and more. Yay! Okay, final point. I'm going to read to you a few very important things that I noted last night that answers a very important question. Why do we need to protect human dignity? First of all, because it affects all of us, right? But what goes beyond that? What does the protection of human dignity guarantees us? What does it produce in the bigger scale? It's not just about individuals, it's about the bigger scale, what we are producing and building. Why is my hair falling? And building as societies, right? That's where it goes, the final product. What is the final product of losing or keeping the dignity, or of attacking or protecting the dignity? Hear what the protection of human dignity guarantees us and produces for us. First, equality of every person in its worth as a human. Because as we said in the beginning, human dignity is the basics for any other rights, right? Fair treatment and human rights protection. Becoming the supreme value of humans, to make dignity itself the supreme value of all human values, recognizing and respecting uniqueness of every human. Yeah. Promoting inclusion and respect, not exclusion, within our societies. Cultivating a culture of values and virtues. Encouraging protection, nurturing, and grace among our societies, instead of hate and violation, yeah, and violence. Promoting social cohesion and moral framework, the right moral framework. Empowerment and recognition of human potential. And finally, eradication of racism, discrimination, hate, and violence. I would like to close this video with a personal story that happened almost 10 years ago. And I'm not sharing this story with all of you to glorify myself or to make a point as to how just I am, although I am a just person and fair person, or to show that I'm doing better than anybody else when it comes to stand up for justice. I am sharing this example of my life, from my life, with you to underline the importance of human dignity and why everybody should stand for dignity when it is attacked. Not just yours, but when somebody else's dignity is attacked as well. So what happened? Ten years ago, or maybe more by the way, my husband and I decided to go visit another country, a neighboring country. And we sat for lunch in a restaurant. And as I was eating my food, I could hear one of the young gentlemen who was serving us the food. He was behind the bar, and he made a very racist comment towards his colleague who was nowhere to be seen. So I had no idea who he was talking about, but I understood that colleague was from another culture, and coincidentally from the same country I originally come from. Now, his comment was so loud that everybody in the restaurant could hear what he said, and the other people who were back, I couldn't see them. They were on the other side of the bar. They started laughing out loud. Now, the first intuition that I had was to swallow that indignation, that comment tricked in me, to swallow it with my food. However, knowing myself, I couldn't. So I looked at my husband for permission to do something about it, and knowing my personality and character, he knew I was going to say something about it, and he knew I was going to confront that young man. And he said to me, "Go ahead, I know you're gonna do it anyway, go ahead, do what you have to do." So I got up, I went to that young man, and I said to him, "Do you know that this comment that you just did about another nation, about another person from another culture, is a humiliation and an attack on his dignity? Do you know that what you just did can cost you your job? And maybe more than that. You could be sued, for example." I'm speaking in Dutch already, oh my God. And his first reaction was, of course, surprise, because people sometimes don't realize that they are doing something wrong until you confront them, which is the first reason why you should always act when there's injustice done somewhere, right? That is why I do it. And he tried to cover that gesture and that comment by saying that it was a joke, right? It was a joke. However, I told him I would not complain to his boss or anything such sort. Yeah, but that was a message for him to not do it again. Now, did I change the world that day? No. Did I change anything in that young man's character or personality? He'll probably continue his day with hating on the same people he was hating. No. What did I change there? What I changed was the realization of that young man that you can't just go around, attacking other people's dignity, whether it's through a comment, blabbering all day, undermining other people's values because you feel more worthy than them. Here in Europe, we suffer from something that is called white supremacy and moral superiority. Problem is, nobody on this continent is entitled to anything. Respect needs to be earned, dignity needs to be protected, and we all need to do our job when it comes to the attack on the human dignity. I told this story to make an important point here, which is when you allow other people to attack other people based on their gender, based on their race, based on their country, based on their nationality, whatever the reason is, make no mistake, you will be attacked in your dignity too. Whoever thinks that is more worthy and has more value than another human being because you were born in a richer country, in a country where your rights were guaranteed more than in another person's life from another country. If you are someone who thinks that by denying other people's value and dignity just because they come from a poor country or from a country where they don't have the rights that you have or from a country where they have seen more suffering than yours, then make no mistake, you have no dignity for yourself. Okay? Whoever feels and treats other human beings less worthy based on status, based on accumulation, based on the ability to do nonsense and to speak nonsense all day long, based on their achievement and status, you are worthy of no dignity if you are one of these humans. The reason that I spoke about this topic today is because human dignity is more important than we realize. It is more important than we even speak about. It is important because, first of all, it goes back to our core as humans, but also because it tells us who we really are. It shows our real face. But it also tells us all that every problem that we have on every level, it will never be solved unless we start seeing each other, treating each other, respecting each other, and valuing each other as human beings. Unless we start acting from our humanity about everything that we do and everything that we try to solve, whatever problems you think you have, we are not going to get anywhere, my friend. We are just fooling ourselves. Now, you have the free will and the choice to fool yourself all day long. Me, I have chosen to not do that. I have chosen to speak up. I have chosen to act when I see injustice. That man I protected there, I didn't even see him. I had no idea who he was at that bar. That colleague that was discriminated or humiliated with that comment. I had no idea who that person was. And I'll probably never will. It's not about that. I gained nothing from doing what I had to do. Human dignity is about doing the right thing. not doing the thing that benefits you, not doing the thing that pleases you, not doing the thing that you think should be done because it's right for you. Human dignity is an inherited right to be treated with respect as a human. And if you can't do that, then you can call yourself whatever the hell you want, but you are not part of the human race. So, I hope this message has inspired some of you and probably pissed others, because that's also something that we need. We need to feel again. Yeah, we've become numb societies. We need to feel. We need to feel rage. We need to feel the injustice. We need to feel everything. That's the only way to react. That's the only way to do the right thing. So if you're pissed off with what I'm saying, good. Now you are going somewhere. I wish you all a good day. Enjoy this video, and I'll see you in the next topic. And we're going to get into the narcissistic societies. Boy, that's going to be fun. Bye, everyone.